Okay, welcome to another interior real estate photography tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about whether HDR is even worth the extra time in post, because on site it doesn't really take any extra time, and I'll show you why part of that is true and part of what I just said is not true. It is not worth doing HDR, and I'll prove my point. But also, we're going to get into showing you virtual staging. If you're on the fence about it, if you haven't done it, if you haven't found a good website yet, AI is literally improving by the day. So this video, if you're watching it a month or even 3 months, 6 months down the road, it's probably even better than it was during this video. But let me get back to my original point about when you're on site. Some of the videos that I was talking about, how I shoot three images at 2 stops apart. I do that kind of as a safety measure, okay? So really what we got going on here is this is the first image. This is the, let me see, where is it? Then we have our darker image, and then we have our brighter image. So 3 images, 2 stops apart, okay? And I usually only take, and let me back up. What I was doing was taking all 3 images and doing HDR blends in Lightroom and then tweaking them. But I found out that it really doesn't matter, okay? I am going to take, this is my first image, and I got to do my layout first bump. Again, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, I'm on Micro Four Thirds. I shoot with the 7.5mm, which is like a 15mm equivalent full frame. So it is fully manual aperture, everything. So I need to, before I do anything, come down here and manually do my profile correction. So if you do use that lens, if you want to use that lens, if you like these results, you're going to need to choose Venus Optics under here, and then choose the 15mm f2.0D, so it does it in the full frame measuring and doesn't have a 7.5 option here. It is the 15. So without that, you can see that it creates a lot of vignetting just straight out of camera, which is not true to what the lens actually is, because remember, when you shoot RAW, Lightroom tries to interpret the RAW file. You have to tell it what lens it is if the camera can't read the lens, which fully manual lenses don't have any of that read-by-wire information, so you gotta tell Lightroom what lens it was. Okay, hope that makes sense. So anyway, here is the edited first image. So when I shoot brackets, this is another thing that I've had questions on. What do you set your exposure to before you fire off your 3 exposures? 2 stops apart. So we're going neutral, whatever that is, whatever you first leave your camera on and you push that button, you're going to get that image, and then you're going to get 2 stops below that and 2 stops above that. So what I like to do for my ambient layer is expose just right of center on my histogram. So something like this, I would expose my image like this and then fire off my auto brackets. The camera does it automatically. It goes -2, +2, 0, whatever. Okay? I only want to worry about, once I bring all my images into Lightroom, I only want to worry about the first image. Now, the reason why I still do the other brackets is sometimes, and this has happened to me more than I would like to admit, sometimes the image will say that Lightroom is unable to read it. For some reason, that image is damaged. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a bad SD card. I've tried brand new SD cards, and it still does it once in a while. But again, I just do it as a safety precaution. Sometimes that could happen. That could be one issue. I just think you're better safe than sorry. Maybe you overexposed accidentally. You weren't paying attention. Now you have the correct exposure with maybe the middle exposure. It's just good to have more than one, as a safety measure. That's all. That's my recommendation. I never used to shoot like that. I used to just do 1 ambient layer, one or 2 or 3 flash pops, however I needed, whatever. But I just still recommend doing the HDR 3 brackets. Just, you don't need to spend the time in post to blend them all, and I'm going to prove it right now. All right, so this is after the profile corrections were made. I am going to bring the highlights down a little bit, shadows up, just to give it the brightness. Remember, with the ambient layer, we just want to focus on lighting the entire scene. We also want to get correct white balance. So you go too cold here, you can see the blues coming in. So you want to kind of get it as close as you can. We got a lot of yellow and orange color cast coming through. I like to try to keep my ceiling clean. Here's a trick. Come down here to your mixers where it says, and make sure it's on saturation, and just take the yellows down. And you're going to see that cleans up the ceiling quite a bit. Now another trick you can do, if you're not sure what color it is, this one right here, you can click on this and then come up to where you want that. Click and hold down and press down. That's going to move it's going to desaturate whatever is in that image, and then let off. So if we toggle that on and off, there you can see that we got rid of a lot of that orange. So again, this is kind of like doing luminosity mode in Photoshop, only we're kind of doing it in Lightroom. We still got the luminance. We're getting rid of all that color cast. Okay? So, we got that flagged as 2. Now, here is, and I just did this for you guys, this is the blended HDR image right here. We can do the same thing just to kind of give it the same result. Right here. Let's bring that down. Okay, make sure and click off that. Yep, highlights, whatever. Shadows up. Okay, we're going to click on this and we're going to compare the two. We'll take this one and drag it up to here. So even though it says HDR, I reset it and I edited just that single image, and you can't really tell. There isn't much of a difference between these two. We could take just another standard image. I can show you here. We can get this one pretty close. Just to prove my point here, there's not a whole lot of dynamic range that you're gaining by shooting HDR. And like I said, the only reason why you would want to shoot HDR is to give you options in post on what images to use and whatnot. So if we pull these down, look at that, we can get it. I don't see much of a difference there. And again, we're not worrying about color so much that we can desaturate those yellows and oranges. So let's just choose this image. And where is our flash layer? Because, let me get back to single image view. I would say this is good enough. Remember, we're just going to worry about the window view. So we can mark that as 2. Let's take that and bring these into Photoshop. Okay, once both your layers are into Photoshop, remember we got the ambient layer on top, desaturated, and then we got our flash layer underneath. So what we can do is create just a layer mask, leaving it white. So now we're going to paint back in. Actually, you know what? First off, we got to change this to luminosity to get that color back. And then we can drop that down to 50%. Don't worry about anything else right now. I will show you why not to worry about anything else. Alright, we're going to use black to brush in. Make sure here the hardness is 0. Flow, I like to be 5 or 6%. Opacity, 100. And we're just going to start painting back in that window view from that flash shot. All I did is just point the flash into the room and shoot the flash. And yes, you're going to get tons of shadows, but we don't care because the majority of this is going to be that ambient layer. So we got to get rid of these shadows, bring that ambient layer back. So we're just going to click on the ambient layer, Command J, we're going to duplicate that. Let's hide this layer mask, delete it, take our opacity back to 100, change this to normal, and then we're going to use Option and click on the layer mask to make it black. And now we change this to white. Same thing, we're going to paint those shadows out of there and bring that natural light back in. And again, I might be doing this the hard way. You know what? We can also bring back the saturation after the fact too. So we could up the flow. A little bit. I'll make it go quicker. Get rid of that ceiling fan shadow. There was natural shadows there. Alright. So again, I like to shoot natural, make it look as natural as possible. We do have to now flatten this image. And we could take this and come in here and try to eliminate that hot spot from the flash. Let's see what that did. Nope, Command Z to undo that. The only other best way to do that is I like to zoom in. Actually, we can eliminate a lot of this glare using content aware. I use this a lot now. You should know enough now to just eliminate that glare. Keep the outside. Let's see if it does it. Not bad. We got to change it. There we go. And then we can also eliminate it, that hot spot on the floor. That's a distraction. Now I have ordered not an ND filter, I keep saying that, a circular polarizer, and that is going to help to pull out even more glare out of that floor, but the flash did a pretty decent job. It's not overexposed. But I am going to start going back to using a circular polarizer. I got away from it for a while because I had a cheap one, and the cheap ones do not go with a cheap one because they will cause serious vignetting that you have a very hard time removing. It's kind of burned in. So that is that. And I am going to Command S to save this and bring this back into Photoshop or Lightroom, sorry. And I'm going to do my interior final bump, which basically just, you know, tweaks the blacks and messes with the highlights. Again, you can just create your own preset and then just come up here and create your own, you know, final bump preset by hitting this plus button and naming it whatever you want. And again, I still think we got a little bit of a yellow. So I'm going to come down here, only yellow. Now again, this only works if there's nothing significant in the image that has yellow in it that you want to keep the color. But if we do this, that looks like it cleaned it up pretty well. And again, this was very challenging. Not only did we have these big open orange floors that were throwing light, you know, color, yellow and orange color casts everywhere, but we had the sun just starting to set right above this beam right here. So again, you're fighting into the sun like the worst possible situation. So that's that. Let me show you now this virtual staging website that I've been using. I just started using it actually this year, and it is virtualstagingai.app. I'm not going to leave a link. I'm not affiliated with them at all. I just was asked by a real estate agent if I did virtual staging, and I didn't say no, but I said I am going to look into it. I will let you know. And I found this website really quick. Sent them over an example of another empty room that I had shot for another realtor. They loved it. They hired me for the job. And this is actually the image, or I will show you now the image that we just got done editing, and it is this one right here. And you can choose. Now I did standard as the furniture style. You have modern, Scandinavian, industrial, mid-century, luxury, coastal, farmhouse. I think that's it. Yeah. And then you can choose between the bedroom, living room, kitchen, bathroom, home office, or dining room. I think I chose dining room for this one. And let me see. I went with, let's see. which one did I go with that they liked? I gave them a couple examples. I think it was this one. Yeah. And so I'll take you to the pricing page. 20 photos, and I just paid the yearly $230, $228, and you get 20 images a month. So typically that's going to be enough. I don't get asked to do virtual staging a whole lot. You know, this particular job that I did, that we were looking here on the virtual staging, I ended up giving them 10 images because the entire house was empty, and it was kind of like a test run. And you know what? I recommend charging, $3 to $5 an image. I think $5 is fair, because even if they're going to do 10 images, that's only $50, and they might not need another virtual staging job for another 6 months or whatever, so they're still saving money. The realtor's still saving money, but you're making your money back fairly quickly at $5 an image. So, yeah. Let me a comment below if you have any questions about any of this stuff. I try and do my best to answer every single comment as soon as I see it. So, again, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.